Hi guys, so today we're going to talk about living with an undiagnosed illness. I will be telling you my tips and advice for how to get better. I know that sounds crazy at this point because you're like, I've gone through a lot, I've had tests, even the doctors couldn't make me better, so how can this random girl on the internet make me better? Bear with me, I'm going to give that tip first. So in just a second I'll get into that, and then as well as my tips, I'm also going to be telling you the things I wished I knew. And I really hope you stick around for those as well because they're so important. So my first tip, which is about getting and feeling better, is that doctors can help you on a symptom basis. This isn't ideal, like ideally you'd have some tests done, they would find the problem and treat you for that. But if they've given you some tests, they haven't shown anything, and by this point you probably would have had quite a few tests. If the tests still aren't showing anything, but you're really unwell, you can ask your doctors to work with you on a symptom basis for now. You'll probably have to make a point that you know it's temporary, you know it's not ideal, but if you say to them this is really affecting your quality of life and that you would really benefit from some sort of relief just for now. So for example, when I was undiagnosed, I was vomiting 3 times a day and they were like, we don't know what's wrong, we can't help. But in the end I was like, please, I'm vomiting 3 times a day. This is horrible. I can't live my life like this. Is there something you can do to help? Oh yeah, pulled out an anti-sickness tablet. And just like that, my life started to get better. And there were a couple of other things as well, meds for different things. There seems to be a medication for almost every symptom. So you might not know the name of it, you might not know what's wrong, but if you know your symptoms and you know how this is affecting you, then your doctor can work with you on that. Like I say, it's not ideal, so they're not likely to bring this up themselves. You're probably going to have to ask for it. But if you're clear with your words and state how this is affecting your quality of life, you know it's not ideal, but you really do need something just to take the edge off those symptoms, and that can make the world of difference. And it might not be a medication, maybe it'll be a lifestyle change that they can recommend, maybe it'll be some sort of adaptation or, I don't want to say medical device, but you know, something, then maybe that can help. And the next thing I wish I knew was that that is the toughest and darkest time you're going to have with this. There is no worse time than this because whilst you're undiagnosed, you tend to be untreated. You find it difficult to tell people what's wrong because you can't just give them a name, and it's just hard for so many reasons. So know that as dark as it is now, it's sometimes helpful to know that this is the worst of it. You know, it really can only get better from there, and I wish I knew that. Like, it can get so much better, I promise you. Even if you just get one medication, like I said from the other tip, or even if they can just give you something, that opens the door to it getting better. At the end I'll talk about my diagnosis because it's a really commonly undiagnosed condition, and so maybe that can help someone. But I promise you this is the darkest time and it gets better from here. As horrible and even distressing as this time can be, it does get better and it can get better. The next couple of things should hopefully help with that as well. So these two go together, and one is that even though all of the tests so far have come back negative, it does not mean nothing is wrong. Sometimes doctors will tell you this, the test came back fine, you're fine. But there are millions of health tests. If they've run 5, they can't tell you you're fine because you haven't had the other million, is probably an exaggeration, but you haven't had all of the tests. How can they know that? There are also some things that can go wrong in the body that there are not tests for. So you could have every test and it still doesn't mean that everything is fine. And this is a point that sometimes, like, it sort of goes over your head when you're told it so much. You're fine, nothing's wrong, it's negative test. But my nan, I was really upset. So I went round my nan's house and my nan was just like, you're so ill, you're just being sick all the time. That is not normal. It doesn't matter what the tests are saying, it's not normal. And sometimes you need somebody else to tell you that for it to sink in. And in line with that, it's okay for you to tell people that you're ill, even if you don't have a name for it, even if you don't know what's wrong. And that's something that I really wish I knew because I pushed myself way too far and I faked being well to the extent that it was so detrimental to my health and to my body and my mental health. It was just, every day was a challenge because I felt like I had to lie to everyone and fake things, and I had to make excuses because I just wasn't well. It got to the point where one of my friends invited me to a birthday party, and she was asking me, basically it was like a 24-hour thing, and when she asked advice about it, I was trying to like cut the hours down so that it would be less, so that I'd be more likely to be able to go, and so that it would fit my hours that I was well for better. But she ended up thinking that I didn't like her, and then that was the point. I said to her, no, the real reason is that I'm just not well, I'm just not able to do it, and so those times would fit me better. And so you can say that whenever you need to whoever you need to. I'm sorry, I'm just not well at the moment, and so I can't do this thing. And that can make it so much easier. Lastly, I'm going to read you an Instagram post that I wrote on Undiagnosed Day. Let's look up when that was. That was 29th of April is Undiagnosed Day. So this has all of the tips and also some of my personal story in there. And there's a trigger warning because I talk about when I was undiagnosed, and there were points of me being undiagnosed where it was too much for me, and I thought that that was it. So there's a trigger warning with a timestamp here. If you'd like to miss that bit, then you can skip that bit. So it starts with #undiagnosedday. These are the things I wish I knew when I was undiagnosed, bedridden, and so close to ending it all. So please listen if any of this applies to you. Firstly, I want you to know that you don't necessarily need a diagnosis for things to get better. Persevere at the doctors because many symptoms can be treated even before a diagnosis is made. I want you to know that these days are more tough than anyone could possibly imagine, but that it can and will get easier. And that just because all the tests have come back negative so far, it doesn't mean there's nothing wrong. And it is okay to tell people you're ill, even if you don't know what's wrong. And lastly, I want you to know that I believe you. I believe every single one of you, and I never want you to doubt yourselves either. You know when something is wrong, and even if doctors can't give it a name yet, they can start to help and it can get so much better. I promise it will be worth the wait. Many of you know I used to be bedridden and endured so much suffering and pain it made me suicidal, which was worsened by the fact no one knew or even acknowledged that something was wrong, as I lost 2 years mostly alone, terrified and suffering in bed. But even with the tiny spark of light and perseverance with many doctors, it got better, even when I had no hope that it ever would. All the mental and physical healing started even before I was diagnosed. So whether you remain undiagnosed or not, I'm pretty sure the same can happen for you, even if you don't know how or when, and even if only a little bit. So as I always say, keep hanging in there, friend, and I'm always a message away. So that holds true for here as well. Send me a comment. We can find social media or email or something if you need help, and I can talk to you about that. I'm always here to listen. And for the people that missed the trigger warning part, one of the important things in there that I forgot to say was that I believe you, and you need to believe yourselves. You know if something is wrong. Don't just listen to doctors because they don't always know. You know your body. I believe you, and you really should believe yourself and push for treatment and answers, more tests, because it can get better. Okay, so they were all of the main things, but just quickly I wanted to talk about my condition because it's so commonly undiagnosed and it affects a lot of people. Most of the time the onset is in like teenage years, so if that applies to you, and even if not, maybe this will be important to listen to. So I'm diagnosed with Ehlers Danlos Syndrome and hypermobility spectrum disorder. You're usually given one diagnosis or the other, but I was given both, and so I just say both. And this condition causes a lot of things like joint pain, easy dislocations and subluxations, which are partial dislocations. It causes fainting associated with standing and sitting up, or dizziness associated with standing and sitting up. It causes sickness, like feeling sick and being sick, or feeling full up quickly, and it can cause bladder problems and bowel problems. So for example, not being able to go to the toilet either way, or finding it difficult to go to the toilet. So that's the briefest explanation I could ever give of a condition, because I know that with this undiagnosed thing, this applies to so many conditions, so I didn't want to focus on this too much. But if any of those symptoms seem to fit what you're going through, then that could apply to you, and your answer could be similar to my answer. So I really hope this helped. Comment if you need any further help. We don't have to do it openly in the comments. We can, like I said, find an email or social media that we both have, and we can talk on there if you have any questions. So thank you so much for watching. Bye!